Unknown Morning Show. Mandy, we talk about as radio people doing public service,
Yeah, we talk
and
about that a lot.
we do. And I always say, well, weather, but we don't have weather to talk about. Not today, but what we are talking about is chili,
Hey, I like chili.
chili cook-off. One is coming up. Our good friend Blue Monday Daniels has one coming up March 1st at the Park of East Texas on Patton Lane. Otherwise, we can tell folks is known as.
It's like the new East Texas State Fairgrounds. You're going to see the fair office on 64, and then there's a road that kind of tees into 64 Patton Lane. That's where you're going to take your turn and
Yeah.
kind of head to the back across from Dixie Elementary and find some chili cooks.
Oh, and the cooking starts at 8, but when does the tasting start?
11 a.m. And the Cassie chili judging begins at,
1 o'clock.
that's right.
And of course, in all instances, Blue needs you. She needs judges to help out. And I mean, talk about a terrific gig tasting chili.
Yeah, and you don't need any qualifications. They'll teach you how to judge the chili right there at 1 o'clock. So here's the thing you need to know, Chuck.
Yes.
If you'd like to be a judge, and I highly recommend it, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Don't go tasting at 11 a.m. You need to have a clear palate if you're going to judge at 1 o'clock.
What she said. So we're probably going to be judging. We may be judging. Stop by, say hello to myself and Mandy Montana. But most importantly, come by and have a terrific time. We want to see you there March 1st, East Texas State Fairgrounds for the chili cook-off.
I like the premise. I love
Thank
that
you.
you're getting to scratch that radio bug, even
Yeah.
though you're doing something different. So.
Yeah. I'm enjoying it so far. Okay, here we go.
Test.
Roll music.
Let's roll it.
Welcome to the Unknown Morning Show.
It's the show where we explore radio,
Podcasting,
TV,
gear,
gearheads,
and making money with a hot mic and other stuff too.
This is the Unknown Morning Show.
I'm Mandy Montana.
And I'm Chuck McKinley.
Well, Chuck usually starts things off for us. Are you ready to roll?
Oh, I thought that was the official. That was a trap. I don't know if I like you anymore.
Yes,
no,
you do.
Let me tell you, Scott, I was looking at the questionnaire. Been a huge Mandy fan since day one. And I go, I believe Scott and I have something in common.
I have been.
Thank you.
Well, when I programmed at KKUS in Tyler, she was my APD. So we go back in the radio wars quite some time. But so you've had quite a long career, almost 38 years now, huh?
38. Yeah. When now I'll go back to address the Mandy thing. I wanted to steal Mandy when I was I believe it was in Atlanta.
You did?
I said, so what would be? Well, I think we talked, and
We may
I said,
have,
what would
Scott.
be what would be the way that I could get you to leave Tyler? And I said, I think we could put you on here in Atlanta, and you would be perfectly great. And she was like,
thank you.
I appreciate that, but. I believe you had just at that time maybe just started dating your husband, I think at the time.
You know what? It was either that or we had maybe just gotten married. All
but
of our
it's
family
something-
is here. Yes.
Right.
I think
And-
now I'm
and-
remembering. Yes.
And I tried to steal her, Chuck, and I really wanted to have her on, and she obviously was a lot brighter about being closer to home and being closer to family. And
I don't know about brighter. It sounds like that would have been a good career move.
it would have, but hey, listen, in the long run,
Yeah.
you did the right thing.
Well, thank you.
All right. Yeah, Chuck, 38 years, yes. Started in a little station in Durant, Oklahoma, about an hour out of where I grew up. And I bothered the program director there. In fact, he's station owner now.
Really?
Yeah. He's a younger guy. At the time, he was a younger guy. He just graduated from Oklahoma State. And I just said, hey, I want to do radio. From the time I was a little kid, I saved up lawn mowing money and bought 2 turntables. And then I had a cassette player. And I've always wanted to do it. So then that's where it kind of all started. So I went to bother Bob. His guy's name is Bob Sullins. And I went and bothered Bob, and I just kept saying, I'm going to come back every week. Every week, I'm going to come back and keep asking you. And he finally decided, he said, you know what? I'll let you. And so then I became an intern, and I was going to college there. Southeastern Oklahoma State University is at Durant. And so I started going over there every day. And he would have me, this is back in the days where you're pulling records and pulling carts. And so I'm moving carts over for him. And then I got to where I was running the board. And it was about a week or so. He said, "You ever talked on the radio?" And I said, "Nope." And he goes, "Well, today's the day we're going to learn." And this was, like I say, AM daytimer, pretty small station. And I started to do a little bit of it. I started to share the mic with him, kind of like second mic stuff. Mm-hmm. And then the next, when that was a little over a week. So that following Friday, he goes, "Okay, it's you by yourself. I'll be right outside that door, and it's all you." And so I did it. It was an absolute train wreck. I'm not sure if I didn't cry maybe once or twice. And then when I got done, it was 3 to 7 in the afternoon, or 3 to whenever the sunset. And he came in and he goes, "So do you want to do this?" And he said, "You look a little frazzled." And I was like, "Yeah, I want to do it." And he goes, "Okay, it's all yours, 3 to 7 starting Monday."
Wow.
And that was, I got that. And then I worked there through a good portion of college. And then we were right on the Oklahoma-Texas border. So into Sherman, Denison is where there was a FM station. That's pretty much what we all listened to in college. Was a station at the time called Q102, but not the same Q102 from Dallas. And I started working there. And so anyway, I worked radio all the way through college, and I've never had any other job. So I've been, knock on cheap plastic. I've never had another job. So I've been very fortunate. Been very, very fortunate. Very, very blessed to get to do something that I enjoy. Still getting to do it. Blessing. I think the only thing that COVID ever taught us is that we can do this from home. Mm-hmm. And so all my studio stuff, as you can see, all my studio stuff is here. I have a room I can do, can do the whole show from here. I can, do all my logs from here. Everything is done from here. So I do enjoy. And we moved to Nashville almost 2 years ago, and we absolutely love it.
To me, Nashville, and back in the day when I was still doing country radio, I'd go to country radio seminar. And the first time I went to Nashville, I absolutely fell in love with it because it felt to me like Nashville is the biggest small town around. Is it still that way, Scott?
I think with all the bachelorette parties and all that stuff, because, this is the destination where everybody wants to come to for, 3 or 4 days. And so, yeah, weekends are a little nutty now. But besides that, yes, to answer your question, the small town flavor is still here because you get everybody knows everybody. Mm-hmm. It is kind of like that way. Everybody knows everybody, especially in the country industry because it's such a small family now. With so many of the cutbacks, even in radio, they've had just as many cutbacks in the record industry.
Sure.
So we just keep getting smaller and smaller. But a lot of the folks I still know are, 20, 25 years in the industry. And yes, that has not changed. In fact, CRS is 2 weeks away. And all the brethren and sisters come to town, and we all, act stupid from Wednesday through Friday. And hopefully we can learn a little something along the way.
If you play your cards right, I remember back in the day, wouldn't have to buy a drink for a week.
Oh, absolutely. You actually get more than you need by far.
If you come back and you don't have money in your wallet, it is your own fault.
Oh yeah. If you spend anything, absolutely. Chuck knows. Yeah. If you spend absolutely anything, that's your own fault.
But seriously, I love seminar. I love picking brains, and maybe not even so much for sessions, just talking to record reps, meeting fellow jocks or music directors, sitting down with people at lunch and going, okay, well, this is how I do my music. This rotations. What do you think about that? I loved it. It was just invaluable to me.
I've met so many of, growing up and going to CRS, I met so many of my heroes, a lot of programming heroes. At 1 year at CRS, I met Rick Dees.
Really?
Yeah. Rick Dees was he spoke at CRS 1 year. And yeah, I got to meet him, and that was just somebody that I just admired. I used to record his countdown on Saturdays and then record Bob Bob Kingsley on Sunday, and I got to be friends with Bob Kingsley. I filled in on his countdown. I did his countdown show, and handful of times. Yeah, and to get to do something like that and get to be friends with Bob Kingsley, somebody that I admired, and I love the fact that I got to tell him those things and say, you know what, if it wouldn't have been for you, hearing that voice, because we've all heard Bob Kingsley. All know that voice is just so recognizable. But to know the man behind that voice, and he and Nan are just beautiful people, and I do miss him because he and I got to develop quite a friendship, and getting to fill in on the country top 40 and do that, sit behind his mic and do that job was just an absolute. That's probably one of the highlights of my career, is getting to do that. And so hopefully that's not the highlight. Hopefully I got a couple more in me, but that was, there's really not been a whole lot of things that have been so much bigger than doing that.
Yeah.
Buy me a cup of coffee, Mandee.
Yeah.
I've seen that on other podcasts. That's literally...
Yeah, it's like a virtual tip jar. It's really that simple. So you go to the show notes, click Buy Me a Coffee, and then you have an opportunity to support the show in any way you like. Imagine yourself going to coffee with Chuck and myself and saying, hey, I like what you do on the show. I'm going to buy you a cup of coffee. Only all you have to do is click a link. It's that simple.
So any highlights from that particular episode that you remember, or is that all really surreal for you? Just like, I did it, and it wasn't like, I feel like sometimes when I do things that I'm excited about, it's almost like I don't remember the details because I'm so caught up in the fact that I'm doing something amazing, and then I lose it. So I'm just curious what that experience was like.
Fortunately, they sent me the last one I did when Bob was in Phoenix going through cancer treatment, the weekend before he passed away. That's the last one that I did. And I remember he was so heavy on my mind, and I was trying to do just trying to do that. And I knew what was going on, and his producers, I was still in Atlanta, so I did it. I did it downline, and it was just, like you said, it all kind of runs together, and I have a copy of it, so I can, I have it so I can listen to it, and I've gone back and listened to it, but to be honest with you, I don't remember good portions of it because those guys were very worried about Bob, and I think they kind of knew what was coming, and I was trying to keep everybody up, and but his crew, and like, it was such a wonderful thing to see and to experience. But yeah, I'd go back and listen to it. It is very surreal to hear that, that countdown start, and Scott Gaines in for Bob Kingsley, and you're going, my God, that played everywhere, played all over the world. And those are just one of those moments that you just,
I'd love to hear it if you are able to send it. I don't know if that's something you can do or not, but if there's a way, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, they're huge WAV files, but I can send you the beginning and a break and stuff. But I'd love I can send it to
Thanks,
you.
Scott,
It's
cool.
fun to hear, because occasionally when I just need like a little air in my tires, I'll put one of those on just to go, okay, I'm good. I'm good now.
It's the I'm worthy moment, right? Yeah.
I have so many of the I'm not worthy.
Don't we all?
Yes. And I think that's probably one of the beauties of doing this is I've always tried to keep that, stay on street level where I don't want to ever come off being, I'm sitting in a bigger chair than you, I'm doing this better than you. I always want to be that same guy, because I am just like you guys. I'm just a fan that got a job.
Yes.
I love the genre that we're in. I did other formats. I programmed other formats, but country was the one that really kind of raised its hand at me. And when I was growing up, I listened to country because I grew up in a very small town. And country was kind of the primary thing, and nobody really listened to rock. See, I was a Van Halen guy. I listened to rock. I listened to top 40. But country was kind of a third choice down the line. And I knew who George Strait and Alan Jackson were, and I knew who a lot of those artists were, but it just wasn't primary and was just in, the front of my mind. And I enjoyed, but like I said, I just loved rock. I loved doing that. Got into college, and then by the time I got into college, I started noticing a little bit more. And I realized that the two country bars down in Sherman and Denison, it's where all the girls were. And so I figured I had to learn how to like that music. So I would go down there, and then, you learn how to two-step. And then by the time you do that, Garth Brooks and Reba, and then it kind of started lining up. But when I got into radio, I really had plans on doing hot AC. I was doing AC and hot AC. And when I got on at KVIL in Dallas, I thought I'd hit it. I mean, to me, that was just like landing in your
big, massive heritage station.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I was, that's the days of Ron Chapman.
Oh, boy.
And Larry Dixon. And
you can say I'm in the same zip code. How about that, huh?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And you're going to staff meetings with those guys, and you just sit across the room, and you literally sit there and pinch yourself, going, "I am not in the same room with these people." But yeah, and I've had a lot of those moments where I feel like, okay, you go to a staff meeting and you realize I'm sitting on the same staff with, I was at B97.9, which we shared the building with Kiss FM, and I did nights, but then sometimes I would come in and fill in on the morning show. Gene and Julie would do mornings, and sometimes I would fill in on the morning show. Kid Craddock at that time was right down the hall, and that was another person he was doing nights at the Eagle when I was in high school and in college, and it just to be able to know what was going on down the hall, I was just so jealous. Like, okay, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I want to be down the hall. I want to watch Kid. And same way at ABC Radio Network, I did overnights there when I first started. And Tom Joyner was there, and they would start their show. So I was overnight. And so by the time I get off, they would be starting their Eastern broadcast. And I would go down and sit in one of the spare studios. And I got to be friends with some of the producers. And I sat and watched Tom Joyner do his show. I sat and, watched, there's so many of them, because D.D. McGuire was on that show with him. And who is it? Banks. Last name is Banks. He's Doug Banks. He passed away. But just getting to see these guys do that on such a huge level. I was such a nerd, and I sit there and to get to meet those guys and go, these are guys I listened to, and now I'm considered a colleague with them. And I never found myself in that same field of, even like existing on the same floor with them. I just always feel like I'm a fan who got to sit at this table, and it was just such an amazing feeling to get to experience that.
Did you collect? Were you ever an air check collector?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I don't think there was many radio guys back in in our era. And I bet if you ask them now, I bet that none of them do it. Yeah, I did. I had a membership to California Air Check, and then I used that, and then I started saving, because they transferred a lot of those onto YouTube. So a lot of those were from the video that they shot at the same time that you were getting the air checks. You could get the video. So I started just saving YouTube videos.
Way before YouTube, back in the 70s, I would sit there and had a hand recorder. I'd put it in the grill, my radio grill in my car, and I'd record like an hour of WLS at night, and just hoping, I'll get the air check, and I hope my battery isn't dead.
I used to lay in bed because, like I told you, when I lived in the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma, the only radio station that would come in at night was WLS. And by the time sunset hit, then you were getting, and think about all the people that we listened to there. And then I would lay there with headphones on in bed when I should have been asleep, and I'd lay there and listen to the radio all night.
Yeah.
And so you'd completely get what, the obsession of listening to these guys, and there were so many in at WLS and of course that was when they were in there. I mean, that was a prime station.
John Landecker, Boogie Check.
Yeah, John. And what's funny is his daughter was just on Law and Order.
Amy,
SVU. She was just on there last Thursday. And it's so neat. And I was telling my wife that, and she just kind of sits there and it just goes in one ear and out the other. And says, you don't understand. You don't understand. This is a big deal. This is John Landecker, who I used to listen to, and trying to explain it. And she's like, the show's on.
It's his child. But it's his child.
That's a 1 degree of separation. And it's like, I've met him, and I've you don't get it. It's helpful to have a spouse that understands when I get riled up like that. Like, well, you don't get it. And they just kind of look at you and smile, and for 20 some odd years, they get it. They realize, okay, he's gone now. He'll come back.
My wife got me John's Records is my middle name, and his biography and autobiography, and I loved it. Then she turned right around and wrote to them, emailed, and she got me an autographed version. I treated it. Wow. I felt like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom opening the Holy Grail. And I go, oh, and I just, it was just incredible.
It's neat to get things like that from people you admire, and and it's like I went out to let's see, it would have been Bob and Nan Kingsley had a foundation called the Blue Stem Foundation.
Okay.
And they would have a big dinner and donation party, and they would invite Nashville songwriters out to their ranch outside of Fort Worth. And Nan invited me out one time, and it was crazy expensive. Like, this is like the super wealthy of Tarrant County and Fort Worth and all that. We go out here, and they're paying thousands of dollars to be out there to attend this little concert and dinner. And I'm just out there, obviously not fitting in, but sitting and watching that. And I watched the artists, and I got ready to leave, and I was walking out, and Bob said, well, let me walk you outside. So Bob walked me out, and he said, you ever seen a $1 Million Horse? I was like, no. So Bob raised cutting horses as well.
Oh, okay.
He goes, have you ever seen a $1 Million Horse? I said, no, I haven't. And he goes, come here. So we walked into his barn, and of course the barn was nicer than the house I lived in at that time.
Yeah, cutting horses, that's an expensive trade.
I sat on a bus and listened to him and Ronnie Dunn talk about cutting horses, and I'd never been more lost, but I just sat there with my mouth open going, yeah. So I walk in, and he's got, and they're just stalls, and they're beautiful horses. And I look over there, and it's a baby. And it was so little. It was just born like 2 days prior.
Oh.
And he said, that's $1 Million Horse. And he was explaining why it would end up being $1 Million Horse. And I said, Bob, that's amazing. And he goes, he goes, I just don't want you to ever think that any of this isn't possible. He said, you got to find that love. He goes, I have radio, but I also love animals. And he was still made a lesson out of that. And then, petting those beautiful horses. And I know the love that he had for that. And he shared that with George. What's so funny is, like, he mentions George Strait like I would mention Mandee. It's just like, oh yeah, George and I are, and Bubba, George's son, because they were all cutting horses. Kind of like Cody Johnson does that too. And they just mention it like it's no big deal. Oh yeah, George and Bubba, we go down and we go to their ranch and we practice. And it's like, sure, we all go do that.
Sure.
You say, okay.
Sure. Let me know when we're going. I'll be more than happy to attend.
Oh man.
Wow, that's incredible, Scott. So tell me, so you're in Nashville now, and you're doing mornings. Are you programming too?
I am doing mornings. I do. My stations aren't local here.
Okay.
The company that I work for is called Local Radio Networks.
Okay.
And it was a couple guys that I worked with over at Westwood One. when I was still in Dallas. There's a couple of guys that worked out of Denver, and they worked out of the Westwood One office. They got together with a man who I think he was a little frustrated with Westwood One. I don't work for him, so I'm going to be able to tell the truth. I think they got a little frustrated with them. And
like
just
you do.
Like you do. I've been there, done that. He got a little frustrated with him, and I think he got with Chris and just said, so what would it take to be able, and now, mind you, this man that owns our company is incredibly rich, and he loves radio. So he looks for people to go, okay, so if I wanted to do this, what would it take to do this? Well, Chris and Jonathan were running the operation, and he said, if I took you two guys, could we build a network? I'll pay you what you're making now, but as we grow, I'm going to, help you grow. So I think it's about 8 or 9 years now. They have 19 formats.
Wow.
And they just exploded. And then I oversee the country part. So we have so many, and I'm not doing that to brag. We have so many mainstream countries, we had to split it off. So we actually have 2 lineups that cover mainstream country. I have a superstar country. We have classic country. And it's just kind of neat to be able to do that. So yeah, and then they said, it's been over a year now. We're looking for somebody to do mornings. Can you fill in until we find somebody? And yeah,
Over a year.
Here we are still doing mornings. Yeah. So I do mornings on one of the mainstream country formats. And a lot of those stations that I have now are older stations I had when I was on Westwood One. So it's kind of neat to go back to do these. Now they're smaller market stations. I mean, we're not in huge places, but we have. I think it's just I think it's just mainstream country. There's 236 stations. It's across 38 states, and I think the weekly listening reach is about 10 million.
Wow, Scott.
Wow, okay.
I'm across now. I have them all the way from Alaska. I have them from I'm Alaska to the Carolinas, and then I'm across the country. Because I'm in a little station. In fact, it's an AM station. I have one in Hawaii and I have one in Alaska. Cool. The one in Valdez, Alaska is so interesting because you can get your locals, they'll pop up and they're talking about, freeze warnings and not to be outside during certain times of the day. And there's a certain time of the day where the sun never goes away. And it's like, I'm so backwards. I have no idea, but they're so together and they love country. And I have been on a call with some of the owners. So you get a chance to kind of meet, but it's just such an interesting grab bag of people. I feel once again, I feel so blessed to get to do that. And I have more fun doing that. I always did major market from the time I graduated from college. I was always I was in a major market all the way through. I went to Tyler there for a cup of coffee and
that's where we met.
That's where we met.
It was a good cup of coffee.
It was a good cup of coffee. And if things could have been different, I would have loved to stayed there.
I know.
And that's where, like I said, I got Chuck, this is where I became the Mandee fan.
Okay.
It was a great time. And I ended up meeting a lot of great people. I'm still friends with Mandee, and I still keep up with Carlene and Amy Fish lives here in Nashville. We're still friends to this day. So there was a lot of positive that came out of that. But yeah, I don't look at this. I don't look at this as I'm better than anybody else. I've never looked at it that way. I just looked at it as I'm a fan that gets to do this job. And I'm so absolutely fortunate to, as I used to say, as long as my card key works and I can get in the building, as long as I can still sign into the network, I realize I'm still okay. But I never look at this as I'm bigger and better, and I've never been that guy. I guess to an extent, and you guys know this too, with having radio experience, you have to have a little. I guess you have to have a little bit of ego to make it, to sell it.
Yeah,
but
you
it
gotta
can
have
also
some confidence.
you have to have confidence, but you have
Yeah,
to. It'll override your. It tends to. You don't want it to override your personality, and I've met a lot of
Right.
people like that.
There are a few.
So,
Yeah, I've met a few along the way.
I can think of some. think of some names.
I don't name names, but they probably won't be guests on this podcast either.
Probably not.
I'll just say that.
Write them
Probably
down.
not. Yeah, exactly.
They just got left
Yeah.
off the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad because and I guarantee
They'll be on
that
somebody
maybe-
else's list.
Let them
be fine.
be.
Oh, you mean that list? Okay.
Yeah,
That's not what I meant.
Oh.
I was trying to be polite.
yeah, we're trying. Well, you're the host. You can be sweet. I will say that there are names that I would not feel comfortable being in the same room with.
Yeah. Yeah, same.
There's just some people that you just know that you just don't blend with, and it's better. And once again, I wish them the very best. I'm not one of these kinds of, I want you to, I want bad things for you. I don't never wish that. I would like to say sometimes like, okay, I just caught them on a bad day.
Yeah.
But I feel like I caught them in a bad corner or season of their life because it was a bad season for them or something.
Yeah.
But one way or another,
Yeah.
I knew that I was not going to have to endure that anymore. And it's just, some people don't have to be the way they are.
That's true. I had one encounter with somebody in Tyler for a season. We'll call it a season. And it was the only time I ever went to management and I said, it's either him or me.
Wow. Yeah.
I
It was me, wasn't it?
for that short period, for that cup of coffee, it was you, Scott. It was you.
me. It was me. I'm sorry.
No. But really,
No,
and as a female in the industry, I'm sure there's people who've encountered that a lot more frequently than I have. I've been really blessed. The majority of the men that I've worked with in this industry have been mentors and kind and helpful, and I've learned so much. It's been really rare, but I know it's out there because I know other females in the industry and I see it, and it's frustrating. It happens in other industries too, but
It kind of goes hand in hand, sadly.
yeah.
And
but I think some of it's the ego thing that you were talking about.
It is
it
because-
gets fed, and then it's like they transform into somebody maybe that they were before.
Yeah, I have experienced that too.
Yeah.
I look at it as a car salesman. They're your buddy until you buy the car. And then when you buy the car and since the second you drive it off the lot, they're going to ride in the back seat and tell them you're doing it wrong. And I ran into a lot of those.
Yeah.
But the thing with being a woman in this industry, I know a lot of incredibly strong, powerful women who have overcome, and I do know that men can be absolute a-holes when it comes to just feeling and use that word mansplaining because Mandee, you're not smart enough to understand what I'm talking about. So I'm going to break all this down for you. I have literally witnessed that where there's a whole room full of guys and maybe a couple girls. And I remember one in particular, he would stop what he was doing and literally explain what we were talking about. And you never really realize that till you sit on the outside of it. And then you start hearing mansplaining, or you hear, where the way they address a woman compared to the way they would address the guys. Or it's just, and even that old school programming, Chuck, you probably remember this, where they told you when you're putting your logs together, what the number one thing with a woman, I bet you can even tell me what it is. What's the number one?
No two females back to back.
Exactly. Never followed it. Never, ever followed it. I play music by hits and not by gender. And if two ladies happen to land back to back, now did I do three? No, that's dumb. But if two hits landed back to back and they happen to be females, guess what? They played together, and I've never felt any way differently.
The rules were interesting. It was, and the other one was, as far as watching your ballads, and I would say, well, okay, here's the problem that I have with all of this. No ballads coming out of your break, and I would say, okay, here's the problem that I have. Your most popular songs, almost in any format, will be a ballad or a love song. So now, granted, you don't overdo it. I just when I programmed, I always looked for, and station that they did program as classic country, I looked at is what is the most variety that we can have within the format and to mix things up. That's what I looked at.
Well, and probably one of the best parts of coming out of the stop set, if you look at we can just use Lone Star Amazed.
Yeah.
That played cajillions of times. But there were so many times when that would program, and it would program into where, like you said, it's coming out of the stop set. Do you pull a song like that and do you adjust it? Or do you let a 6-week number one song go ahead and play? Because people aren't going to hear that and go, oh, man, that transition was awful. They don't hear that. They don't even care. And I always hated when you'd have people, as I became an ops manager, I always let the program directors run their stuff. You wouldn't have the job you had if you don't know what you're doing. And if you got a question, come to me, but I'm never going to stand over you and do this, this, and this because I trust you to do your job. And it's just amazing to me on how antsy people get when they've been around other people that have told them, you can't have a slow song coming out of the break. Don't. Now, there are sometimes, yes, I've heard, you hear train wrecks, but there's a big difference between a slow song that's relatively unknown and a smasher like a Faith Hill or, Amazed.
Yeah. What was Lady A's big hit? Need You Now?
Need You Now.
Yeah.
I mean, and that went everywhere.
Yeah.
And so you kind of tend to, I never looked at those rules as set in stone. I never could. And I mean, you run into those old school guys that see things that way. And then when I explain to them, this is the way I look at it. Yeah, you get the raised eyebrow, but they'll go home to their house and, life still exists. My birthday still comes and goes and nobody, they didn't take my Easter eggs. Everything still stayed the way that it was. So
what do you enjoy more, programming or being on the air?
If 38 years of being on the air, I still love doing it. Mm-hmm. I love the way that I get to do it now because it's not super high pressure because I don't have to, I'm not on a meter. I get that out of my head. I'm not on a meter. I'm not every move you make is being scoped. And, now meters have changed to where, I mean, I could go in and look the next day and see what worked and what didn't. And then if you have an overzealous OM in a major market, they're watching that each and every day going, okay, that bit didn't work. That break was too long. And then where it just gets to nitpick and I can't enjoy it. Yeah. You can't enjoy that.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Chuck, it's awful. Because it's almost so intrusive because they were talking like even interviews. We interview an artist. Mm-hmm. We don't interview artists anymore. Now, if you just go and listen to really just now country radio, you never hear an artist interviewed on the air anymore. Hardly ever. Now, maybe smaller markets, maybe you still get away with it. But large markets, you're not going to get that. And if you do, you get 15 to 20 seconds and it's gone. And I love when they say, oh, they're going to come in and host, they're going to co-host the show. Yeah. And you're getting 15-second snips and that's not co-hosting. And, I think this is some of this stuff is just so, it's still backwards. I don't think it hurts to have, the reason why I said that is because when they started doing this with the meters, in New York City, a guy I used to work for in Atlanta was a PD in New York. And he said that when they started checking the meters, they had interviewed Madonna on the station that he programmed. And he said the meters just dropped. And he said, that's proof right there that nobody wants to hear somebody like that. And I said, it could not be further from the truth. It's just, they put way too much into the algorithm.
It sounds too reactionary.
It's very much so. And I mean, you can't sit there and tell me, and then this would have been the height of Madonna's, career. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me people don't love to listen to Madonna talk. And also, like, what's used today, if I had Morgan Wallen on, people are going to want to hear that. If I've had him on, and Jelly Roll and Laney and all these people. I do chop them up, and they're never more than a minute long, and they're going in and out of stop sets, and I do make it. There are ways that you can adjust, but I mean, people want to hear that. They're fans. Yeah. I mean, these guys sell out stadiums for a reason. Mm-hmm. They're doing multiple nights in big stadiums because 80,000 people care what they think.
Right.
And I mean, they're selling high dollar tickets. I would think they would love to hear a minute of what do you do when you're off the road?
Yeah.
It's like you ask stupid, and that's kind of my thing. I don't really want to find out about the album. They answer that question 10,000 times. Tell me about the album. What's your favorite song? I want to hear dumb stuff. What do you I go way out in left field, and they love it. I'll even do speed questions. And not even the silly ones like the boxers or briefs, that kind of stupid stuff. It's just it's just the fun things. Yeah. And then I just like to have fun with them, and I like to have them feel where it's just a they feel relaxed. And so when I'm seeing them at ACMs or CMAs, they feel welcome, and I'm able to chop those up and send those out. And so all of our little formats of stations get CMA interviews, and they get to be a part of the crowd. So it's nice to get to do that. So I share that with our format, and it goes down through superstar country and mainstream country. So it's kind of nice, and you get to do that for Fisher House. Fisher House is an organization. It's kind of like we call it the Ronald McDonald House for the military.
Okay,
nice.
So when a soldier is injured in the line of duty, they'll go to a hospital. And near that hospital, they've built Fisher houses. And a Fisher house is where the families can go and stay while their soldier is going through treatment. And Fisher House has determined that soldiers heal faster when their family's with them.
Yeah.
And so just like St. Jude, they don't pay for bills. They don't pay for food. They don't pay for travel. Fisher House pays for everything while that soldier is still in the hospital. And even if they move them to, residential therapy where they have to go through physical training, they still let the family stay with them, because they said that, having a family member with them always makes it better. And so Fisher House does that. So we always raise money for them every year.
Nice.
The same way we do for St. Jude.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So yeah, it's such a wonderful cause, and I've worked with them for probably a dozen years now with Fisher House, and we always use them as our sponsor, so that way we can kind of do almost a radiothon over the 2 days we spend with the CMAs and ACMs. So kind of everybody gets to eat the table.
That's really cool. I feel like that's the last time I think I saw you in person, Scott, was at the St. Jude conference and I only got to go to it one time.
That's not fair.
I know. There are some decisions that are made in Tyler and with the corporation that I worked for that revolve around the dollar. And and having people at their job versus going to learn how to fundraise was the way it was positioned to me. They'd rather have me on the air. So, that was such a compliment, right? The way that's worded. Yeah.
Oh, we can't be without you for a couple days.
Yeah.
Well, when I come back, this way I'll be skilled on how to raise money.
Yeah.
And
that was such a great experience. I loved every second of it. I got to meet so many people across the industry, and they took I had never been so well taken care of in the radio industry as St. Jude.
They spoil you.
They do.
And
special.
You go in, and they just did this back in October. They moved the dates, and so I was there in October, and you stay at the Peabody, and you have really wonderful meals, and you meet these families, you meet the children, you meet some of the kids, you go take a tour of the hospital, you cry for about an hour and a half, and and I'll be the first one to tell you, I have the biggest soft spot for the children of St. Jude. And they're just, I've worked with them for probably closer to 20 years now.
Yeah.
There just isn't anything in the world I wouldn't do. I'll tell you a quick story. When I was going over to tour the hospital the very first time, they take you right there, and you had to have done a tour when you were there.
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you go in there at the very front of the hospital, the very front end, right there where the big St. Jude statue is, kind of where you start. We went in there. We were all newbies, so I went and I sat down, and we're waiting on them, the tour guide to come, and the kids are coming through, because now when they move you in a regular hospital, obviously they'll put you in a wheelchair or they'll put you on the gurney and they roll you. There at St. Jude, they're in little red wagons, and the little red wagons have the little thing they can hang their IV on.
Yep.
And so they're sitting in a little red wagon and they're pulling them down the hallway. And that just, it got me. And to see the little, their little bald heads, and they're, and they're just, it just gets you. Mm-hmm. And I saw the little one, and he kind of looked at me, and it's just like he locked eyes with me. And I walked over to the desk, and I saw people's names on the back of the little red wagons.
Right.
And I walked over to the desk and I go, how do I get my name on one of those little red wagons?
Oh.
And she goes, well, we make a donation and then we buy them. And I said, okay. I want two. Mm-hmm. And so I bought two of those. So we have two of those little red wagons running, because it made such an investment in my mind. And I'll see that till the day I die. That little boy's face, I had no idea who he was, but he didn't have one lick of hair. They were going through chemo. He had his little gown on, and he was riding in there, and he had a stuffed animal right here, and he was sitting and he kind of leaning against those pillows, and his mom and dad were pulling him, and a nurse was with him. But that little boy has no idea that what he did, just looking at me, and he smiled. He still smiled, and these little kids can still smile, and knowing all the things they go through, and the parents, and we have a young son now. Mm-hmm. My little boy Landry will be 5 next Sunday.
Oh wow!
And going there this last October,
hits different.
And with my oldest son, he'll be, gosh, God, am I old? He'll be 34. He'll be 34 in April.
Wow,
and
Scott.
To have them that far apart. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. That's an experience.
And my granddaughter's 2 years older than Landry.
Okay.
And, it's trying to explain that to people. They're like going, oh yeah. It's, yeah. But
what a full life, though.
You can say that. Yeah.
Yes.
We had tried to, our baby journey took so long to get here. And
I remember that in Tyler.
Yes,
I remember you briefly telling me about that.
We were going through that then, and we started when we lived in Detroit. When I was running the stations in Detroit, we started, and she would get pregnant and would lose them, and we couldn't figure out why we should only go to a certain point, so many weeks, and lose the baby. But then I was still in Atlanta, and her job moved her back to Dallas. And we were trying to find she said, I want to try one more time, because we were going through IVF. Yeah. And that was the only way it was ever going to work. And we all know that's not cheap.
No.
And she found a doctor. We chose a different doctor, because this last time we just weren't getting what we needed. And so she went in to see him. He said, you are geriatric. Pregnancy is, and she was
35 is geriatric.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's how old she was. She said, he says, you're geriatric. This is going to be a one-time try, but I will tell you, I will give you everything I have. We're going to figure this out. And we did it. And he monitored her blood every week. She went in for blood work, adjusted her medicine every week, adjusted the shots. She has to be the strongest person that I have ever dealt with, because just taking the shots and all the things you have to endure, I know, and trying to She's much stronger than I am. Much, much stronger than I am.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Scott. I feel like but
we went way off into the weeds.
No, but really, as a woman, I appreciate hearing a man talk about the strength that it takes, and also just talking about that journey from your perspective too, because that part of the story is not often told. And women don't talk about it as much as we need them to, but also men don't. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. My wife is she's kind of a fountain of being able to work that with helping women go through that, because to lose babies and understanding the mental toll it took on her, and it was mentally taxing on her. But the shots that she had to take and the determination, but to have Landry, to get what we got, he keeps me on my toes. We just came in here to the studio and sat down, and I was just getting ready to go. And in our stairs, we have wooden stairs, and I hear, and I can hear him coming up the stairs, and my wife is behind him, and I go, "Hey, we're getting ready to start," and the door flies open, and he loves coming in here. I put him on the radio occasionally, and I think he thought that I was going on the radio, and he was like,
"Well, he would be welcome to say hi if you want to pull him in."
Well, I may do that at the end. When we get close to the end, I'll grab him.
Yeah,
because he loves to. First off, he loves to see himself on the camera, and then he'll just talk your ears off. So we want to make sure we're toward the end of wherever you want to do before we. Yeah,
got it. Well, this has been so much fun. I'm trying to think. Chuck, did you ever go to St. Jude? And not to circle back, but I'm just curious. I was thinking about it.
I was never with a station that did St. Jude, so I've never.
That's right, because you left KNUE before that came around, didn't you?
Yeah, and the funniest thing, and I've told you this, the last time I went to Country Seminar was the time I got the programming gig at KKUS, but we were classic country. And I think it was kind of a payoff, because when I was hired as program director, I said to the market manager, I said, well, because I had this idea in my head what we needed to do the station. I said, well, I know what we need to do. Am I going to get any money for it? And he said no. And I said, okay, I'll get to work, because I knew exact. Part of it was we were live during the day, and at night we were Westwood One, and Westwood One was newer, and I just felt that we needed to essentially roll our own and do our own music and have it to where we put as many butts in the seat as possible. In order to do that, we had to get rid of Westwood One, and they said, go ahead. And I said, okay, get to work. So, but to answer your question, no, but we did a fair amount of local stuff too, as far as local charitable things, like, if we had the chili cook-off, if folks came to the cook-off, they bought a ticket, the money went to food bank. Wow. We would say, well, people need to eat. Come here and have chili. Yeah. Let's do this,
And I love that doing the local things too, because, doing the can drives and you stand out in the parking lot of a Walmart or some sort of store, and you're doing can drives, or you're doing the fill the boots, Children's Miracle Network is another one that I'd only done that one once, but when I was in Atlanta, we had the children's hospital, CHOA is what they called it, and we would do fundraisers. We'd do the show actually in the lobby of the hospital.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And I mean, I wasn't able to do St. Jude during that time because they had such a really deep relationship with CHOA. And and it was another situation where all the sick kids are, and you just fall in love with all of them, and the parents, and they're just good people. I would do those. Honestly, I would probably do those twice a year if it were possible, because I just don't think they get enough love. And the people that work for St. Jude, Scott Hinchelwood, and the guy, he's kind of oversees radio for St. Jude, probably one of the best men that I've ever met. And he was a St. Jude child. He lost his leg to cancer. And it's so he lived at St. Jude. Yeah, he lived at St. Jude, and he lost his left leg. He had bone cancer, lost his leg, and but one of the sweetest guys, and he just makes sure that, and it doesn't matter. I mean, you could raise $200 or raise 200,000, and they love you just as much. Mm-hmm. I love them.
Scott, I was looking at your information sheet, and it said you've done some work for the record labels in Nashville. Are you still pursuing any of that? What are you doing?
Well, yeah, I am, because I have a friend that runs a company called 8-Track Entertainment. 8-Track Entertainment has they're a fairly small list of artists. Their largest artist is Shenandoah, which, by the way, obviously you guys are very familiar with.
Marty Rabin, yeah.
Marty Rabin, yeah. And Shenandoah is pretty much their I would say the flagship artist, but it's their largest one. So Shenandoah, Ira Dean, who was in Trick Pony, and Dan Tominski, the biggest name in bluegrass.
Man of Constant Sorrow, right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And then a smaller duo called Boomtown. Oh, God, they're going to kill me now. Boomtown Saints. And so, yeah, there's some other people that they've been talking to. They're trying to grab onto some other artists and of name. But I've been kind of just helping them, trying to help them with the artists and trying to help get them out. And we have a little project we want to do with Marty that will come out a little later this year that I'm kind of been helping them produce. But in this opportunity, I've got an opportunity to really kind of sit down with these guys and, even because I mean, I knew Tominski, knew of who he was. I knew he was a very highly decorated musician. I think he's won 15 Grammys. Ooh. So, I mean, he's such an amazing artist. And I mean, in the bluegrass world, he really is the top of he is the, let's see, I guess if we put it in country terms, he is the Garth Brooks of bluegrass.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
And I never really listened to much bluegrass. I mean, I knew who he was, and the only reason I knew the name is because Alison Krauss in Union Station, he was a member of Union Station.
Yeah.
And Alison Krauss has like 27 Grammys.
Yeah.
And so, and he was just a part of that group. Mm-hmm. And then he kind of branched out on his own. And such an amazing artist. And I hosted a couple things for them over at Blackbird Studio when they were debuting some music. And Shenandoah, they have been trying to kind of get them kind of a last victory lap. And so Shenandoah had a hit with Luke Combs, and they redid 2 Dozen Roses.
Oh.
And so, yeah, if you haven't got a chance to hear it,
I haven't. I'm writing it down right now.
I'm going to YouTube that today, definitely.
And the one I didn't get to do that project. Now the project that I was on is what we did with Shenandoah and Jason Aldean and Luke Bryan, and we did Sunday in the South. Oh. And we shot a video for it. They came in, Luke and Jason came in and sang their parts. My friend Noah Gordon was an artist for a lot of years, and he's the president of this label. Probably one of the best producer minds that I have got a chance to just sit down and pick his brain. Mm-hmm. He has that ADD quality that we all have, that we have to, and the guy's doing 10,000 things, man. He's just going and going and going. But to listen to the magic that the man captured in the studio between Marty and Mike and Jason and Luke, and like I said, YouTube the video. We shot that video in Leapers Fork in a tiny little cafe, and it was just surreal to have those two guys come in, and they're sitting at a table in a tiny little cafe singing that song to each other with a Steadicam that just went around the table.
Wow. And
to have Luke and Jason there, and to hear them say, when we started playing in bars, we played Shenandoah music because, Luke and both of them are from Georgia.
Yeah.
And that's what they played. And it was so neat because we would just be fans of all 4 of them, and to watch 2 of the biggest names in country fall all over and want to ask questions to Mike and Marty, because they recorded their parts separately when Noah made the song. So they didn't really get a chance to meet. And it was just kind of cool to watch that all come together. And it was a neat shoot, and the video turned out perfectly. So yeah, it's been neat to kind of watch that happen. And we've got another, but what we're doing with Shenandoah is trying to put them in with other folks and kind of give them a victory lap, because we want them to, and they're touring, and I just went to, Shenandoah did a thing at the Ryman a couple weeks ago with Clint Black.
Oh, fun.
And it was a fundraiser for a local Christian college in Middle Tennessee. And Fried Hardeman is the name of the college. I'd never heard of them. They are quite an influential, but this little thing they do for their fundraiser, I mean, they've had presidents come and speak.
Wow.
They've had, it was very impressive. They had Tim Tebow and
Okay.
and the Mannings, and I mean, it's a big,
caught my attention.
deal.
Yeah.
And they always have an impressive speaker, and they do those, but they moved it to the Ryman this year and made a concert out of it, because they're in the process of redoing a $50 million auditorium there on the campus of this college. And when they have that opened up, then they're going to go back and bring somebody in. But President Bush, both the presidents, President Clinton, and they were just kind of going through the years and showing. It wasn't like some dork like me who came in there and talked for about 30 minutes. It's big names.
Interesting.
So it was really cool. And there you go, chasing rabbits again. But it was really cool to kind of sit and watch Marty and those guys work their magic. I hadn't seen them on stage. I mean, obviously, how many times we've heard a Shenandoah song, but it's been so long since I saw them on stage. And it was just amazing to see. And if I remember correctly, I think Shenandoah was down in your neck of the woods not that long ago. I think they were there last weekend.
It wasn't that long ago. I was just thinking that I remember seeing the ad for it. I missed it. I didn't get a chance to see them, but I saw the ad for it recently. I was like, oh my gosh, they are touring. I just saw that they were in East Texas.
They, I sat down with Marty. It was the day of that show. We were at the Ryman, and we were upstairs in the green room. The day, I feel like I'm just chasing rabbits. The day that show happened was the 2-year anniversary. The day that I lost my dad. Oh, and so that always weighs heavy because it's still relatively new.
Sure.
And Marty and my dad were a lot alike. Marty is a very, very strong Christian man. He preaches. In fact, he had preached at a church. He'd go and he does prison ministry. He had done the prison ministries in Mississippi when they're off. That coming weekend after that show in Ryman, he was going to preach 2 nights in a place in Georgia. And that's what my dad did. My dad, when he retired from the federal government, went into the ministry full time. But sitting and listening to Marty, I'd speed through that. Sitting and listening to Marty for the couple hours that he and I just sat and visited was like talking to my dad.
Oh, that's special.
And it was on a day that I really needed it.
Yeah.
Because it was just sitting and letting him tell stories, and then he would always have a Bible verse that he would go. So he'd spit a Bible verse just like my dad did, and it was very neat on the way that. And I don't know, some people may not believe this, but I really feel that that God put Marty in that spot because he knew how difficult of a day that I was having. And I got to have a conversation with somebody who reminded me of my dad.
Yeah.
And then when I came home and I told my wife, I said, I sat with Marty, and I said, and I just felt my dad was there because it was just one of those, it was like having the conversation that I needed that day. But getting to talk to Marty was just getting that reflection time. It really was kind of, and I know it may sound hokey and cheesy, but
not at all.
It sounds like balm
really
for the soul.
it really, but it was what my heart needed. And I woke up that day not in a horrible, and I wasn't in a bad mood. I was just like, I couldn't get out of that funk because I knew what the day was.
Yeah.
And same way with my mom. I still have that same day. Christmas has never been the same, and it's just one of those things. And I guess you carry that with you as you lose your parents and stuff. And it was just that day. It just the way that things just configured where I needed that couple hours, and then I went and watched the show that night. And it was the day was just an incredible blessing that I really truly needed. But yeah, it was neat. It was really neat. And to develop a friendship with these guys at 8-Track, let's see, Noah and Jeff Goodwin, they run this, and they could be two of the nicer people. And they do have a few investors that I've become friends with as well. And I would literally walk to the edges of the earth for these guys. They're just such nice people. And I love doing what I get to do. And like I say, it's just a little side thing, but it's just fun. We have a CRS thing coming up. We're going to do something at CRS. So we got a room, one of the 20th floor of the Joseph, which is across the street from the Omni. They're going to do 3 nights, and they're going to showcase their artists and stuff. And they got Tominski and Ira doing one night, and got Shenandoah doing one night, and Boomtown Saints doing something. So they're going to do
That'll be cool.
big night. Kind of like what you've had to do. You go to go to CRS, and they say, hey, okay, well, they'll pull you in 1,500 directions. Well, one of those directions happens to be 8-Track. Yeah, so it was kind of strategic, have to piece that together. But I helped them do that, and I helped them secure the place, and just kind of doing stuff for them that they just didn't really have the manpower to pull, And so I was like, okay, well, I can help you with that. So
I feel
like doing that.
I feel like all radio people have a side hustle. I mean,
you kind of have to because we have to now. I mean, like when we started, you could do that, and
you might DJ a nightclub or parties or something, but it's evolved.
And I did. I DJ, in college when I started the other one. I mean, I was DJing college parties, doing frat parties, and DJ at the school. My best friend and I, we were DJs at the, when they would have anything that was going on to like a school event, we would always go in and play music and stuff. So, I mean, that's always kind of, you have to do 15 other jobs. I mean, that's just what radio is.
It was
a handful
fun,
of guys
though.
that can live like that. Oh yeah. I
did that for a number of years. It seemed like it was so much different than my regular gig, which was country. I did country for 33 years, but when I was doing mobile DJ stuff, you could do anything. And the kids' parties could be a little tricky because it was kids' stuff and maybe even mom and dad stuff. But I had the funnest time doing weddings or like corporate things because usually you'd be playing oldies and it would be fun and you could just really, let things loose and just let her all hang out,
I had a friend in Durant that he had bought. He was a mobile DJ. He worked at K-Lake before they'd sold to their thing. He worked at K-Lake. He did afternoons there, but he had a mobile DJ service since we were in school. And he and I would trade that out. And I would take, nights that he wasn't booked, I would take his stuff out. And I mean, sound, lights, the whole 9 yards. And I love doing that because you do those little corporate events over at, Choctaw Casino. Well, it wasn't even casino. It was the Choctaw Bingo back then. And you would do, it was just so much fun. And I really did. I love doing that. I love doing the high school dances, and that was back in the day when kids loved going, that was the highlight. And you're going to these small towns. That's the highlight of these kids' week, besides going to the football game, is getting to go do this dance after a football game.
Yes.
And this is, and you give them all the music and you pump them up and, of course, probably all the soda and extra things that were brought into the dance. Get them all, get them all good and sugared up and send them home. But no, I love doing that because at that time I wasn't that much older than the kids that were going, and it was just fun. I mean, you just love doing things like that, and I don't. Everybody's like, well, you look back on the career and go, I do not regret one day. I do not regret one day. I've rolled my eyes, a few times and going, what am I doing to myself? What am I doing to my family? And we've all three done that. And then you realize at the end, and I hate this phrase, at the end of the day, it's something we still love. It's something that we still enjoy. And I don't know if I could ever really truly retire from it. And that always drives my wife crazy when I say that. But I'm not really sure that I can just clearly walk away from it.
Yeah.
Do you have it, Scott, that when you're on vacation, so you're on vacation and
What's that?
okay.
Point taken.
Hey, I withdraw the question. No, it seems like usually
when I'm on vacation.
usually about Thursday, the bells start ringing to where I'll look at the back end of our website and go, oh, okay, let's see who's doing what or whatever. But yeah, but you're never on vacation, so we'll just move on from there.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, because I got grilled. Yeah, you do that. You go in. Yeah. And when you said look at the back side of the website, I did. And it's like, you can see who posted, who didn't post. Mandee's been through the posting hell. She understands. I mean, that's part of it. But you just have
I'll
to
let you say it.
Oh, I will. I'll say it. Yeah. It's like, I want you to put up 14 articles, but I don't care what you say on the radio. Yeah. Believe me, that's the life. That's the life we had come from. So, I mean, I get it.
That was pretty much my exit point.
Yeah. Well, when it becomes okay, I will say this in the digital world, in the digital world of radio, that particular company does digital very well.
They do a good job.
But they don't care about the on-air product. They care about the digital product because that's the part they're selling.
Correct.
They're not selling the radio. It's now, you remember how used to when you would have a salesperson, they're selling air, but your compliment is
digital.
Is digital.
Yeah, it's
and I never knew of a
topsy-turvy.
company that, I never knew of a company that sold digital first, and they basically they stopped watching ratings because it didn't really matter to them. They wanted to make sure they were for clicks.
No kidding.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Chuck. They watch clicks. They watch engagement.
Yeah. The goals are all based on what. So I left Scott in summer of 2019, and then a couple years later, I said, hey, your midday person that you're piping in from out of town sounds like she's high. And I was like, I'm here, and I'm local, and if you give me a little bit of money, I'll voice track for you, but I'm not writing 12 articles a week or whatever it is. Like, we need to come to some sort of balance. And so we came up with a plan. I would do 5 articles a week instead of 10
One
or whatever.
a day, which makes sense.
One a day. I'll voice track. I think I was doing middays on Mix, which was like 5 hours. I think it was 10 to 3. And we'll do this for a nominal fee. Let me do endorsements. I'll do some remotes for you if I'm in town, whatever, And it got to the point, all of my goals were based on those 5 articles. And if I didn't hit a certain number of views on those articles, then I had to have a one-on-one meeting with essentially the OM. I forget what his title is now in the company. They've changed the names. But I had to have like a coaching session.
Right.
So by the time you take into the account the amount of time I'm spending researching and writing these articles, the amount of time I'm prepping for the show, recording the show, and having these coaching sessions, I'm making like $6 an hour.
Right.
And
it's not worth it.
That's what I told him. I was like, guys, look, I want you to have a good product. That's why I reached out to you, because I want your station to sound good. Not to sound cocky or confident, but
no, not at all.
I just care.
I mean, if you think about Mix, you and Larry were the voice of Mix. I mean, that's exactly what that was. I mean, and you didn't want to sit back and watch what you guys had built to crumble.
Right.
And you cared about what you were doing, and 1,000% for both of you. You guys made that station hum, and the fact that they couldn't, look past that.
Well, and it wasn't the local guys. I got to say that, because I still love the local team. My podcast studio, literally, our parking lot backs up to their parking lot. I'm across the street from them.
Oh,
yeah, you can wave. I love the local guys, and I finally got to the point I realized I was putting them in a bad position because I was resisting. I was like, guys, you can't hold me to this. I wasn't even a part-timer. I was a vendor, because I told them, I said, look, I have an LLC. I want you to pay me as a vendor. I don't want to be an employee. I was like, this is how we're going to do this. I was like, this is not what we talked about. And the fact that you're holding me to it, like, I didn't want to put the local guys in the situation where they were having to defend me to corporate to keep me.
Right. And they would have. That would have been the number one thing that they would have had to go, okay, why has Mandy's engagement for this week been low? Or
Exactly.
She only has
that's what was
she only
happening.
She only has 120 clicks through her story about Morgan Wallen. Why is it? Yeah,
that's exactly what was happening.
Makes zero sense. It didn't make any sense to me. Yeah. And when I had heard them say, we only care about the digital product.
Yep.
And they didn't care about air. And
I just said I'm no longer a good fit here, is what I said. I was like, our priorities don't align, and that's cool. If that's what you guys are going to do, I best of luck, but I'm going to take my talents and go do something different.
Exactly.
And it was about a year later that I started a podcast, and then this one evolved another year later. So I'm 100 episodes into the first one, and this will be
close to 40, right?
I think you might be our 40th.
Yeah.
I think you will be 39 or 40.
I'm honored to be here.
Thank you.
I've had such a good time visiting with you guys, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of nice just to see people and visit with people who have kind of this, the same love. We all started with the same love of this, this job, and to see where it takes you. I've had a wonderful time doing this job, but when I saw the chance to come and do this, I was like, I had to do this just because I wanted. I'd seen Chuck, but never had a chance to meet him. And obviously, like I said, I've been Mandee fan day one. I definitely wanted to jump on that to be a part of this. It's been so much fun.
Well, I appreciate it, Scott. If you want to grab Landry and let him have fun, feel free to. If you need to go, that's fine too. But if
Give me just 1 second.
Yeah,
okay?
go grab him. Go grab him.
Let me go get him.
We need to have our first kid
That's
on the show.
right. We've never had a kid on the show.
No, but I think this will be fun.
It's the baby.
I mean, we've had babies across the door.
That's right.
This will be fun.
Okay, come on. Yeah, you can be on camera. Come here. Yay, come here. Go slow. A little bit.
Hi.
Say that's the guy with the glasses. That's Chuck.
Hi,
Mr.
Landry.
Chuck. And the lady that's Miss Mandee. Daddy, I used to work with Miss Mandee.
Hi, Landry.
Can you hear me?
He can't hear us, can he?
No. They said hi.
Hi.
We are just kind of learning our way. He likes to be on the radio with me, so occasionally I put him on the radio. And
we talked, and then we talked back to you.
Yeah, well, he hears it back.
Yeah.
I play it back before I send it, and I call him Producer Landry.
Nice.
And, Producer Landry in the studio.
It's
I
true.
call you,
Oh,
and then say hi on the microphone.
and then say hi on the microphone.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where I'm gonna have to. He's gonna have to take care of me when feed me applesauce and read to me on the porch. So yeah, he has no idea what he's up against, but it's true. But no,
Strawberry.
and feed strawberries. Oh yeah, I like strawberries. So
That's good.
yep, this is my little. Somebody asked him at school, said, Landry, what does your dad do? He's on the radio, and I'll do that too. And I was like, no, you won't. No, you won't. I want you to have a real job, and I want you to, Landry's taught me a lot. Landry has autism.
Okay.
And Landry is but one of the most gentle little souls, and taught me so much about understanding what that is all about. And
To occupational therapy.
yes, you go to occupational therapy.
Yes.
You go to speech. You go to speech. Yeah, with Miss Carrie. That's right. But yeah, he has ABA that meets him at school every day, and
I'm in new school, pre-K.
Pre-K.
All right.
Pre-K.
Okay.
It's Logan.
Oh, and his best friend's Logan.
Nice.
They don't know Logan.
And do you know what?
What?
He just messes around and not be climbing a lodge.
Just one of the classrooms. They don't know what the lodge is, but they don't know. But yeah, this is the little piece of the puzzle that was probably about 16 years later than it should have been, but I wouldn't have traded it for anything. He's been fantastic, and to have my kids so far apart, 33 and 34 and 5 will be their birthdays this year. So yeah, it's but yeah, he's definitely a blessing. I've learned a lot, all the pieces of the puzzle of understanding autism and understanding and how intelligent he is. Dinosaurs, naming dinosaurs, counting, learn all the numbers. And he got bored and he learned all these colors, and he got bored and learned them in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Yeah. Hey, tell what's Spanish for orange?
Araha.
What's Spanish for purple?
Pus.
What's Spanish for yellow?
Amarillo.
Yeah. What's Spanish for blue?
Azul.
What's Spanish for red?
Rojo.
Yeah. See, and
That's
this is
very
just because
good.
of boredom. That's because of boredom. He learned
so
the colors so
bright.
early,
Wow.
and he's like he wanted to learn something else, and he's already doing simple math, and
Wow.
and there's just so many little things that he kind of has mastered, and he mastered it so young. I know he gets a little bored. Handwriting has kind of been a struggle. So I mean, he's working on handwriting right now at pre-K, but yeah, you don't realize it's like when they say that, they end up having superpowers. We haven't figured out what his superpower is yet, but memory. That's the one thing I've learned is if we promise him something, we have to follow through with it. 'Cause if we don't, he's gonna remind me of it.
Hey, speaking of, do we have big plans for our birthday coming up?
I told him your birthday was next Sunday. Where are we going next Sunday for your birthday?
To February.
Yeah, it is February. What are you doing for your birthday next Sunday? Where are we going? Mimi and Grandmimi are coming. Where are we going to go? Where are we going to have your birthday?
Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh, fun.
And we're having a
Game.
we're having a Buc-ee's party, right?
Yes, I'm having the Bucky's.
Oh, how fun.
Oh yeah, Buc-ee's. We have two of them. Yeah, we have two of them.
Do.
We have two of them around here, and every time we have to, it's just a given. When we go to Alabama to visit his grandmother, we pass right by one, and we have to stop. And he has all the Buc-ee shirts, and
fun.
We got a Buc-ee's cake coming.
Nice.
We're Buc-ee's fans. Hey, we need to let them go because we've been talking a long time, and so we probably got to tell them bye.
Can you tell us bye, Landry?
You tell them bye.
Bye.
Say it was nice.
Bye,
meeting you.
Landry.
Nice to meet you.
And have a nice weekend.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Oh, and happy Valentine's
And happy
Day.
Valentine's Day.
I didn't know that was coming.
Yeah.
All right, can you get Daddy's door? Get my door, and I'll be down in just a second. Oh, we're gonna do. Okay. Hold on. Let me tell them bye. Hold on. Wait. No. We're not touching that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I thought this was so much fun, and I had a great time.
We did too.
This part you can cut out if you want to, but this was fun. This was too fun to.
So name with L-A-N-D or Y.
You sure can. That's so good.
No, we're going to have Landry on, definitely.
Well, yeah, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's like I told you, he's going to have to take care of me one day. I asked him the other day, I said, are you going to let me live with you when I'm old? And he goes, no. And I was like, well, why not? And he goes, Mama can. So yeah, he's so far that Mama gets to stay. I said, well, you realize someone's going to have to take care of Dad when he's old, and I said, I'm going to remind you of all those times when I took care of you when you were younger. You kind of owe me, and he'll go, oh, okay, maybe.
Oh.
You're not going to read to me on the porch or anything like that. Feed me apples. I said, the cool part is we can both eat the same food. Yeah.
That's so fun.
Right?
Hey, Scott, fun fact.
Yes, ma'am.
This episode will debut on Valentine's Day.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, so that worked out well.
Everything dovetails together.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah. I'll send it to you too.
Please.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll say.
Oh, yes, you
you
were
were?
sick.
I'm glad you're feeling
Yes.
better.
Yeah, he got last Saturday. He started getting sick, and
Yeah.
and my wife got sick too because he he caught some, as at school,
At school, yeah.
it's a pit of pink eye at school, and he brought home the strep throat, and at least he didn't have the flu, but so Mama ended up getting sick. Yeah, Mama got sick, and so he did too. All right, are you? We can do sounds later. My board, I have the board, and the board you can change the voices.
Oh,
and he loves hearing his voice and the different sounds.
I did too when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And he loves doing. Can we do sounds later? Let me tell Miss Mandee and Mr. Chuck bye, okay? And we can do it in just a little bit. Just say, tell him bye.
Bye.
Bye, Landry.
Say, get my door, and we'll do sounds in a little bit. I promise. Thank you. You're a good man.
Oh, he's precious, Scott.
Oh, Scott. He's wonderful.
You would be amazed of the people who, like, I'll be out at Walmart with him. In fact, that's where we're going to go as soon as we get done here, because we always go do the grocery shopping together. People will go, oh, ain't grandkids great? They are. I have a granddaughter.
Yeah.
This is my son. But that happens probably at least once a week, or he gets called a girl for his hair. We've just now gotten him where he can have a haircut, because we start think about messing with your hair.
Yeah, spatial.
He does. We went through the longest period of where he just didn't want. He didn't want people touching his head. He had a hard time. There was so many little things that just drove him crazy. So I didn't care how long his hair grew.
Yeah.
And he would do it when he was ready. And we found a lady here in Nashville that is just amazing with him.
Oh, good.
So we've been kind of doing little trims at a time. So his hair, but it's like a horse's mane. Well, it's like a horse's mane. It's thick and whatnot. So he needs another haircut. So it's neat because we can kind of start prepping him. And so Miss Zena has a fire truck and a cop car he can sit in while he gets a haircut. So we slowly have started doing that. But yeah, there's food aversions. Man, I'm telling you, this just learning about what autism has been. I knew it existed, but I honestly didn't know much about it. And spending the last, he was diagnosed when he was 2, and learning all about that. I've learned something new every day, but getting a chance to meet with therapists and understanding, the occupational therapy and the speech therapy. And he has somebody come to his school every day and works with him. It's amazing the things that they've been able to do for him.
Yeah. Well, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And would you be willing to come back in the future? Chuck and I have been talking about that. We'll probably recycle some guests and maybe have a specific topic, but we kind of like to get the origin story first, and then maybe, we'll kind of come up with a series and have you back.
Absolutely. And Mandee, for your women's podcast, if you do get into infertility and things like that, my wife would be a great guest for that, because I know she's worked with a lot of folks discussing that infertility journey. Yeah. And I know that they do a month of it. I mean, I know there's a month of
like for awareness. Yeah.
But awareness. Yeah. And just know that the sensitivities of that. But yeah, she'd be a great guest. But yes, I would love to come back, and I feel like I've dominated a good portion of your Saturday.
That's all right. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, I've had a blast. Chuck, it was great meeting you.
Thank you so much. Hey, and it's just air, right? So
just air, baby, just air.
And that's
free.
Great. And that's great too. We get to be on the radio somewhere. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
Hey, I always say, as long as my card key works, then like I told us, if I can sign in to our website and it all still goes through, then I know I still got a job. So yeah, as long as I can still sign in, I'm blessed far more than I deserve. I love what I do, and the ability to get to do this and have the friends and go to shows. And I went to Kelsey Ballerini last night.
Oh, nice.
And it was it's getting a chance to do those things. And you could go to a show every night here.
That's I bet. Yeah.
And going down on Broadway, there are people that play on Broadway every night that you'll never hear on the radio, but there's just as much talent down there as there is that plays on the radio. So it's neat to live here because there's so many talented people.
When I make it that direction, I'm going to reach out. We'll have to go hear some of it.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
I'll do it.
Absolutely.
This has been another episode of The Unknown Morning Show.
I'm Mandee Montana.
And I'm Chuck McKinley.
This is our show to explore radio,
Podcasting.
gear,
And the gearheads that use the gear.
and making money with a hot mic.
And other stuff in between.
We'd love for you to follow us on social media as well. Follow us on Facebook at The Unknown Morning Show and Instagram at The Unknown Morning Show. See us on YouTube at The Unknown Morning Show.
Thank you for listening to The Unknown Morning Show.
I'm Mandee Montana.
I'm Chuck McKinley. And remember, be kind and rewind.